Hi, it's Rich with Richbound Photography, Sacramento, California, and today I'm coming with a re-review of a pre-review for the CamRanger 2, the new CamRanger, which is a tethering device which will attach to not only Nikon and Canon, but Sony and Fuji. And I want to say that I have received nothing from CamRanger, and I paid full price. I think it was $375 for my CamRanger, so it's an honest review, no allegiance whatsoever to CamRanger. I will try to be honest and fair about all of my feelings, but again, these are just my feelings. And I am not showing you the device, I am not showing you the app, I am not showing you how to deal with things, because that's not my intent. My intent is just to do a follow-up. What does Rich Baum think about this, and is it maybe something you should check out? Is it worthwhile for you? So I want to add in, please subscribe to the Rich Baum YouTube channel. Please use my Adorama link in the show notes if you're going to buy something. This really helps me produce and get motivated to make these free resource videos that I know help people. So if I helped you, help me out. Just it's little pittance, but it's always nice when a lot of people use the links. So thank you so much. Check out Shooting Spaces. Anyway, all my stuff's going to be in the show notes, what I use, everything you can find out. So let me get into this review. Okay, I've been using CamRanger 2 for a couple of months. It might be almost 3 months now. And I've probably done pretty good at putting it through its paces. I have some pros, some cons, and I'm going to give you my feeling for them. I'm also got everything written down here, so I'm not going to forget it. I just want to let you know I might be looking down here to read from my iPad. And as always, people want to know, it's an iPad Mini 2 case. I don't think they make them anymore, but it has a strap from Life Proof. I also get nothing from Life Proof. I wish I did, but I don't. But if you go to Amazon, you'll find plenty of cases for whatever iPad you have. So let me just get started. Okay, first I want to say, really super important, you want to read the camera setup document that will be in the show notes and is supplied by CamRanger. It's very important. It's not a cop-out on CamRanger's part. You've got to be responsible to set your camera up properly for it to work, and that's just the way it is. A lot of people have been going, oh, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. Well, you got to check it out. They've got all these little idiosyncrasies. You've got to set your USB a certain way. Sony, I know for a fact you've got to set up certain ways, and I'm sure Fuji's the same way. So check out the camera setout document, and it goes by Canon, Nikon, Sony, and Fuji. So go through each thing and make sure your camera's set up properly. Now, the other thing too is there's resources on the web, not a lot yet, and I will say I'm a little disappointed they haven't been more proactive to get that information out there. I would think it would save them from having angry people commenting to them, because this is something that's really affecting us as real estate photographers, I believe, much more than if we were a portrait photographer in a studio. So I just want to say that do your due diligence and time to really make sure you set everything up correctly before you rip on CamRanger. But CamRanger should also be out there. There are groups out there, the CamRanger users group on Facebook. You can check that out. And you can always send an email to Dave or to CamRanger support. Dave is the owner of the company. The CamRanger support will answer your questions, and hopefully, and I want to say they are getting firmware updates out there, but it's been a little frustrating so far. But I've spent hours and hours and hours working on this and working to figure it out and to get information out there for you guys. You can check out my other video, which will be at the top or on the side when you see the end of this video. It will show you my initial review or my just pre-review, because I hadn't really used it. So let's get into it. Okay, so read that camera settings and set your camera up right, whether it's Canon, Nikon, Fuji, or Sony. Do it and then figure out if you have an issue, okay? Cables and a bad connection with a cable. When I first got my CamRanger, I got the cable. It's a little L cable. It's a little side cable that comes a USB-C. So it's hard to find cables, but USB-C is getting more popular, so that's going to be better in the future. But I plugged it in, and then I plugged it right to my CamRanger, and I was working, and I was shooting several shoots and I was getting bad connection. It would keep dropping and dropping and dropping. Well, it turned out to be the cable. So I just want to say to everybody, first thing I always say, and the funny thing is I didn't listen to my own advice. I should have just immediately tried a different cable. But if you're having connection issues, try another cable, and that is going to be the easiest thing you can do to alleviate your headache, and also CamRanger's headaches. Colin, I hate this thing. So make sure you change your cable, or you have a good cable, and always have an extra cable. But I said that too with the CamRanger 1, so no brainer, always carrying an extra cable. And remember, it's a USB-C, the round one. I love the new cables, but they're not out there in everywhere yet, but they will be, because that's the future of USB. Okay. The speed and the speed of replay. Okay, you take a picture, the image has got to take the picture and then send it to the CamRanger, and then it pops up in the app on your iPad. I will say, my first pre-review said it took like 4 or 5 seconds to do. I didn't have it set up right, so that was my fault. And I found that if you set it up, your camera up to shooting, now this could be different on camera or Nikon or Sony or Fuji, but for Sony, I have to set it up as JPEG basic small, the smallest JPEG plus RAW in my camera. And that way, the thing that goes to my iPad is the smallest file size that can go, which dictates the amount of time it takes to review your images. So let's imagine you're using an A7 III like me, a 24 megapixel camera. It takes about a half a second to 1 second to replay. It's almost instantaneous, and it's also instantaneous if you walk away for a ways. So I'll go into range in a bit, but it's just to know that you really got to set it up right, because if you have like an A7R III at 50 or 40 something megapixels, it's going to take longer, because even your raw image is twice as big as a 24 megapixel camera. So that depends on what you're doing, but I think if you are setting it up right, I don't think you're going to have any complaints on the delay it takes to see your image. It's going to take somewhere between a half a second and maybe 1.5 seconds for the A7R, which is a really high megapixel camera. And they just came out, I will say CamRanger has been doing firmware updates, so they've been really trying, and I just want to say I give them credit for that. They're trying to make this work for everybody, but we're still experiencing frustration because it's hard to get the information out there, and people come to me, Rich Baum, to get that information out there. So I've been really busy helping people, especially when it first came out. So I will say, if you set it up properly, and even if you're using the new A7R4, which is 56 megapixels, 52 megapixels, I say that they're going to take a little bit of time to transfer, even if it's the smallest JPEG, but I don't know about that because I don't have that camera. So my A7 III works in about half a second to a second replay. I can walk away 100 feet away and still get that. I can be facing the other way. So I will say it's a lot better than Sony is, and a lot better than a lot of other devices. And people are saying, I'll get to Canon and Nikon in a minute, but Canon shooter today, my buddy Cody Cha, who I respect and answers all my questions. He's the go-to answer guy on the internet. But Cody said that he's having pretty instantaneous times with his camera, his Canon camera. So we'll just leave it at that. Okay. One issue is with Sony especially, and I think it's only with Sony, and it isn't with the A7R4. Dave said there's not this issue, but in the A7 III, A6400, A6500, 63, 6000, A7, and I don't know about the A7 II, but the A7 III and I think the A7 IIIR, when you go from one shutter speed, let's say we're shooting our ambient at 1 second, and then you go in and you want to do your flash shot at 1/60th of a second, 1/160th of a second, you are going to have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. That's going to be the killer for me with the CamRanger. I can't deal with it, and I'm hoping they can fix it, because Dave said they don't have that problem with the A7R4. It goes directly from one shutter speed, but the A7 III it is going from every single increment. So it's got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 increments from one set of speeds to another. So if you were going from a 1 second to a half a second, it's only going to take, it's going to be very quick. But if you're going from 1 second to 1/160th of a second, it could literally take you 4 or 5 seconds to just change your shutter speed. I've avoided that by actually have to be on my camera. I am rotating my center dial on my A7 III to change the shutter speed, and it goes very quickly, but I don't like that. It's not fair, and it is a big killer for me for the CamRanger. Now remember, you might have different experiences, and there's a chance I'm not doing it right. So if I'm not getting it right, I'll take full responsibility, and I will redo anything I can, and I will get the word out there. But for me, I've really spent a lot of time trying to figure this out. So it takes forever to go from one shutter speed to another, and that is really taking me out of my game. I want this to be smooth. I want it to be fast. I'm having to wait on these things, and I'm just not enjoying it. So I will say that's a big issue. That's probably the biggest issue for me. It's not the review, because I'm getting the review in a half a second to a second. That's not a problem. Changing shutter speeds takes me a long time. So let's go on to the next thing. The range and the dual frequency. These are good things. It's going on a 5.0 frequency or a 2.4 frequency, and they say that the 5.0 is better for faster speeds and 2.4 is better for long distances. I haven't really tested this. I'm not unhappy with the frequencies. I will say I'm thinking that it might help you. When I used to shoot CamRanger 1 or even the Sony app, look at all these I'm getting all these leaves surrounding me, flying through the shot. I love it out here, and I hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather out here in November in Sacramento, California. Anyway, I will say that when you worked in a very congested, Wi-Fi congested area, like an apartment complex or a nursing home or a hospital, I would lose terrible signals. I'd have problems with the CamRanger 1, really bad with the Sony, the Wi-Fi, internal Wi-Fi on Sony. And I want to say I think this is going to really help. So I think you're going to have better connection and longer connection and more stable connection as long as you do everything right and as long as you have a good cable. I think you're going to be very happy there. So I will say that really helps for everything. I will say Sony, again, I'm not going to really go into the Wi-Fi extender, but I'm going to leave a link to a video, and I might do a video on the Wi-Fi extender. But the one I use by TP-Link is not available to the public anymore, and buddies of mine have found another one. Matthew Stallone found another Wi-Fi extender, so I think it's available. So I will put that in the show notes and put a link to his video explaining what it is to use. So if you're Sony, it can help you out. I don't think it can help Fuji or anything else, but it will help Sony. Okay, it might help Fuji, I don't know. So let's go to Nikon and Canon users. I can only say personally for Sony, because I'm not shooting Nikon anymore, but I want to say that Canon shooters have been having a pretty good time. They say it's faster than it was CamRanger 1, but they're saying they're having a lot of drop connections and a lot of, my buddy Coney said, my buddy, I'm just going to leave it at Cody, said that he's having a lot of errors come up, or a lot of notifications that you've got to close out of one thing. And I will say that if using my Sony, I'll get a notification all the time that my internal SD card on the CamRanger is not working. I'll then turn my CamRanger off, I'll close out the program, it'll come back up and be working. It just takes me off my game. I have to worry about these things coming up, popping up, telling you this is not working or this is working. Anyway, long story short is I'm not going to go into Canon and Nikon because I'm not personally responsible for that, and I don't know how that's going. But Honestly, I'm not sure if going to CamRanger 2 is worth an extra $350. If you're happy with CamRanger 1, you may want to stay with it, but you may want to try it, and or you may want to learn from Canon or Nikon users how it's been handling. Same thing with Fuji. I don't know anything about Fuji and how it's working, but I will say it's got to be better than the original thing from Fuji, because Fuji's known as having terrible tethering applications and no options for them. So I will leave it at that. I won't go further into that. I will say one thing that drives me crazy is I'm on an iPad, and I have set my iPad up. I lock the orientation to horizontal. And with the CamRanger 1, I think it would turn or whatever, but I'm just going to say for the Sony app, the Sony camera, when I go into vertical, because I do shoot vertical a lot because I shoot design photos and I'm always going horizontal then vertical, it will turn it. It won't rotate. The orientation of the image will not rotate, so I have to turn my iPad sideways, but the app is not turning sideways, so the app looks sideways and the photo looks right, but it drives me crazy. So I find in my Sony app, I can actually, if I'm shooting vertically, I can hit a button and the whole app turns horizontal. I don't have to change anything in my iPad. So that's a huge deal to me. When I'm working vertically, it's driving me crazy. So I'm just gonna stay at, that's a personal peeve. And again, the peeves, the lows are outweighing the ups for me on the CamRanger. So I think you know where this interview's going, or this just a review is going. So anyway, again, I'm trying to give CamRanger the benefit of the doubt, but I've just been leaving. I'm spending more time on my Play Memories app with my Wi-Fi extender than I am with the CamRanger app, and I'm happier for several reasons. And another reason is the mounting and the design of it. I like to have it built in, all built-in Wi-Fi. So I'm just not finding enough value in the CamRanger to make it worthwhile leaving my Sony Play Memories. And I'll say a couple of things too. I don't use auto bracketing. I don't need a lot of the things that are offered by CamRanger. If you're a real estate photographer that needs bracketing, auto bracketing, then yes, you should definitely go to CamRanger because it offers bracketing. I don't care about it. It's not a big deal. I do manually bracket. I change my brackets as needed. I learned that long ago. It's what I teach and what I preach. But if you are really into that, that's really great. And I would check out all the other things that CamRanger offers to see if that's important to you. There is nothing more important than just to see an image, have it pop up, and then to go on to the next image. I will say also a pet peeve is that, and I could be completely wrong at this, but on Sony, when I click the image, it comes to my iPad, I look at the image, and then in 2 seconds, I can set it to 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10-second review. It goes back to live view. With CamRanger, I take a picture, and it doesn't go back to live view. It goes to that image, and then if I take another picture, it goes to the new image. If I want to see live view again, I've got to hit a button on there, and the layout to me is not laid out well. It's not thought out for me and for several other people. I have to go click on the eyeball and then to bring it back to live view. I don't want that. I'm really happy to just click the button, the image pops up for 2 seconds, and then it goes back to live view with my Sony app. And the CamRanger, I've got to click, I get a picture. If I want to go to live view again, I've got to click another thing, and it just throws me out of my game. I've got my rhythm. It's not working for me. So that's a big deal for me too. Okay. Unique situations in real estate photography. I will give CamRanger credit saying that they are using the CamRanger, they've designed it for all kinds of applications, studio applications, astrophotography, remote tethering, all kinds of things. They can do all kinds of focus stacking, all kinds of great things. I don't use any of those. So you really want to go to the CamRanger website and see what it offers. You can also check out the CamRanger users group on Facebook. You can check out, there's not a lot of information out there. I was the first video to do anything on the CamRanger 2. I was shocked. and I think I'm one of the first videos still till today. I've done 2 videos and this is the 3rd one, so you can find them on my YouTube channel, or if you just search CamRanger 2, you'll see my review and my initial video. So anyway, I just want to say that for me as a real estate photographer, taking between 100 and 500, 600 images a day using my CamRanger every single shot, it's just not working for me. The flow isn't working. I don't like the app. I'm not happy about the hardware. Certain things, the review time is speedy, great for that, but all the other things are taking that speedy time down. So I'm just gonna leave it at that, saying, listen, you find out for yourself, and you might not have any problems whatsoever with Canon or Nikon, because I think that the app for Canon is different than the app for Nikon, is different for the app for Sony or Fuji. So I can't say firsthand because I've only tried it with Sony, and I just want to say for me, I am actually very happy, and I might be the only person on God's earth to be happy with the Sony Play Memories app, and now it's called the, oh, I forget what it's called, the image something app, but I'm happy with it, and it does what I need and works in my workflow. So, and again, I'm not sponsored by Sony or anybody. This is just my heartfelt feelings on this. Okay, so a couple of things on Canon. I can only speak for Canon because I spoke to Cody today, and he said he used to be able to trigger his camera using his volume control on his device, either a phone or an iPad. And you can do that on a lot of things like a phone, but he said that they don't do that now. I'm just saying the second hand. He's saying you can't do it now, and it's a big deal for him because he could feel for his trigger right here, and he has to now look down and find the spot in the screen to trigger the CamRanger. So that's something, and that to him is really important. It's funny. All of these little things are important to each of us, and we get our routine, and it's what works for us. And again, real estate photography, we're doing thousands and thousands and thousands of shots with our CamRanger or our tethering device every single year. And you know, really not like doing a studio where you might take 100 pictures and it's going to be, it takes you every minute you're going to be taking an image. I need speed, I want fluidity, I want things that are going to work for me. So anyway, Cody had mentioned, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, he's getting a lot of errors, unneeded errors going up. Like something's not working and you've got to then close out of the error and bring it up again. Just as something he said, excuse me, he said that is just bumming him out. But he is also having a lot of disconnection issues. And again, I can't speak for him, and it could be a bad cable, it could be whatever. So I don't want to go there. And again, I'm going to say, check out the document to camera setup document from CamRanger, because you've got to go through each check spot to turn on or turn off in your camera settings, at least in Sony, so it works properly. And that's something I take full responsibility. Okay, and Cody said the main thing for him was the custom design of the device, the failure. Hold on a second, I'm gonna get my CamRanger. Okay, I didn't want to make this review about the hardware, about the technicals, about the application and how it works and things like that. I just wanted to make it an overview. But I wanted to at least show you the device because I have a couple of pet peeves, and a couple of people do. And it's an important thing to me. Okay, CamRanger 1 was an existing device. It was a TP-Link router. And that router was what it was, and they put their internals or whatever they did for the casing. But the CamRanger 2, I'm assuming, was a complete redesign so they could have done whatever they wanted. A couple of things. The main thing is the battery compartment is right there. Now, I use an Arca-Swiss compatible clamp here, which covers part of the battery door. So for me to change the battery, I got to take off the clamp. I've got to get a screwdriver or a quarter, unscrew it, take it off. I have to open this up, and here is the CamRanger battery. It's a proprietary battery, and no problems with that, although I did go through 2 batteries in one day in about 3 or 4 hours, and I was severely bummed because I didn't bring an external battery to charge it up, and I don't have a battery charger for the CamRanger battery. So anyway, I just want to say it's going to take you 10 minutes to change a battery because you got to do all the things you got to do. So that's kind of a bummer, but you can, I will say, good news is there is a port here, so you can charge with a micro USB. You can charge this externally and just charge it all day with battery banks. So I didn't have one with me, my mistake. And you know what? Everything I'm doing, I might be doing it wrong, but these are just my initial feelings. So the other thing too is on the side, they've got the port to plug in the connection, and it goes from USB-C at the camera to USB-A here. And the problem is, I used to put it in a pouch. CamRanger used to have a really cool little pouch, and you'd slide it in here and hook it to your camera. Well, the problem is this now has this USB-A here, and what's going to happen is it's going to stick out to there, and you're going to need a wider pouch. So I just think they could have maybe put this on the top. I don't know, it just didn't seem to be good thinking or planned out, at least for me. And also it's got all these little lights on the front. You can't see them now. I'll actually turn it on if it's charged up, because I haven't been using it that much. And charge it on. You can see the green light. Well, there's about 6 lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lights. And one is for USB 2.4. It's just to tell you everything's working. When you turn it on, and I could turn it on right now, it's going to take me about a minute to a little bit more than a minute to get everything working. So be prepared if you have to turn it off and then turn it back on. You're going to have to sit there for a minute before it gets going. It seems like a little deal to maybe some people, and his answer to me was, well, I turn it on in the car and by the time I'm shooting, it's working. To me, I could be changing batteries and I'm sitting there in front of a client waiting for a minute. I could make other things to do, but I don't want to have to do that. So anyway, I just want to say that it's just, I wish it was a 2 huge thumbs up review after 2 months, but I will give it a sideway and a 2 sideways, but I'm going to give it a sideway, or I'm going to give it a 1 up and a 1 down. 1 up, 1 down, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in between there. If you are shooting Canon and Nikon, maybe it's going to be different for you. I don't know, maybe it's a good investment for you if the things that you value it offers, like auto bracketing, which I can't do in Sony, but really it's up to you. Try it. You know, I don't know if it's going to be a whole lot better than the CamRanger 1 for an existing person that's on Canon or Nikon. I will say that it's probably definitely better than what Fuji had. And for me, I'm probably going to be sticking with the Sony Play Memories app and the Wi-Fi extender. So that's just going to be me. I will keep this, and again, I paid full price for this, so I wasn't a free thing for me, but I want to say I will give it a chance. Maybe the new firmware issues will help with the shutter speed changing time, things like that. Anyway, Rich with Richbound Photography I want to bring you into my world of teaching you how to be better, shoot smarter, and it's Richbound's tips and tricks for real estate photography. Please subscribe to my channel. Please use my Adorama link because it helps me make these free in-depth reviews to help you. And check out my Shooting Spaces podcast with Brian Berkowitz at shootingspacespodcast.net. And we also have our website, shootingspaces.com, which has our webinars, a link to presets, all kinds of things. And really, just shoot better, shoot smarter. And, you know, I want devices like this to make my life easier, not harder. So I'm still working on that. Anyway, Rich with Richbound Photography saying thank you so much for checking this out. I will see you on the next one. Bye.